Welcome to this week's Otters Cast, a podcast where we take you behind the scenes and getting to know the Evansville Otters. I'm your host, David Nguyen. What if I told you at 18 years old, you had the option to attend one of the most prestigious universities in the country on an athletic scholarship, or go on a quicker path that can make your dreams a reality? The catch? You have 60 seconds to make this life-changing decision. That is the path I went on with Austin Nicely, the veteran left-handed starting pitcher for the Otters. Hear about his life-changing decision, growing up in a small town, his romantic love story, and much more. Before we get to Austin Nicely, I encourage you to hit the subscribe button to get alerts on each podcast, as well as other video content about the Otters to give you the best information about the team at all times. Make sure to follow the Otters on social media on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. I also want to apologize in advance about the audio quality, as there was pregame music in the ballpark that may have interfered with the sound. Austin was gracious enough to answer all of my questions, and his answers were able to come out clearly. And now, my sit-down with Austin Nicely.
David Nguyen here with Otters starting pitcher, Austin Nicely. Austin, thank you for joining me. And the first question I have for you on the next edition of this Otters podcast is that when you get on the mound, it seems that you have an intimidating body language and an intimidating face. And I think that's important to bring out a swagger to your overall persona when you get on the mound. Where does that come from?
I think, a little bit of it is kind of natural. Just I've always kind of had that kind of, a little bit of attitude, a little bit, try to float between the border of confidence and cocky. I think that's like the hardest, kind of line to draw. But you have to be confident in anything you do. That's kind of in life. And I think, that was kind of instilled, from my dad, who, had kind of helped me growing up all along. Because, rule number one is, if you don't think you can do it, then you're definitely not going to do it. So I think it just comes from just kind of, being competitive. I'm really competitive natured in everything I do. So that's kind of natural. And then, just, having that mindset of, nobody's better than me each night. And then you let the chips kind of fall where they may.
Wow, that's a really good attitude, I think, because everyone has their own way of gaining confidence. And the fact that you think that when you get on the mound, that you don't think anyone's better than you, has got to give you a competitive edge when you're on the mound.
Yeah, and I think that's how most of the guys in the clubhouse. I think if you ask them all, everybody's kind of wired that way. I don't think you get to this point not being wired that way, because it is it's a tough place to get to, and even tougher to try to get to the next level where everybody in the clubhouse is trying to get to. So I think just being able to use it to obviously as an advantage instead of a disadvantage, I think is the bigger thing.
Now, sometimes that your straight face or facial expression can be a little intimidating, especially for people who don't know you. Where does that kind of come from, or is that just the same thing on the mound as it is off the mound? Was it inspired maybe by Stone Cold Steve Austin from some research that I did, or what is the case of that?
I guess it's kind of me. Everybody always thinks that I'm like a little bit look kind of angry all the time. But if anybody that actually knows me, I'm pretty laid back and don't really, I shouldn't say don't care, but just kind of easy going. Try to be a fun guy to be around. And I guess it's just kind of who I guess the look I've always kind of had. And I say my dad's the same way. If he always looks like he's pretty mad and angry, just sitting there when he's not. So I think it's just a natural look that I guess somewhat kind of helps me, but then also hurts me when you were just hanging out in the clubhouse and getting to know some guys.
So maybe the goal of this whole podcast too is kind of pierce the intimidating armor that you have. I think from getting to know you, one of your hobbies growing up in Grottoes, Virginia, that's correct?
Grottoes, yep.
It's near the Shenandoah Valley, and as well as the George Washington and the Jefferson National Parks. So with you wearing a camouflage shirt right now, it only makes sense that one of your biggest hobbies off the field is probably hunting.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely enjoy it. I didn't, I kind of grew up around a little bit. My granddad hunts, and we had a big hunting camp. And then my dad never really got into it, just because of sports and stuff. And then, I kind of got into hunting and fishing with my granddad as I was little, but playing a bunch of sports, I didn't get a chance to really truly get into it until I got into pro ball, where I actually had a true off season. And it turned out that the off season was the entire hunting season, so that made it really convenient for me, and something I got into pretty big in 2013, and after I got drafted, and fortunate enough now that we own I guess 27 28 acres back home on the mountain, and so I'm able to hunt kind of whenever I choose, and I wish it was something I would do more often. And I don't fish as much anymore because that's more of a summertime thing, and I'm obviously playing. But yeah, it's huge to be able to just kind of get out, in the off season, chill out, and kind of sit in the woods. I always say there's no better feeling than kind of seeing the sunrise, in the woods, as you're waiting for hopefully a nice buck to come through.
I think one of the benefits of hunting, now I haven't done it, but I have a couple friends who do. And if you want an activity to clear your mind from whatever's going on, I feel like hunting is the perfect activity.
Yeah, I mean it's so relaxing just being able to kind of be out in God's country and just kind of see all the nature, and kind of see it unfold, from dark to light, and see animals run around and stuff. I think there's no more peaceful spot for me. And hopefully at some point that'll be where I kind of build a house and can hang out.
Oh wow! So when baseball's done, you're definitely going to build your house somewhere where you have tons of acres and land to hunt.
That's the goal, as long as the wife allows. Yeah.
So is it fair to say that Luke Bryan's hunting, fishing, and loving every day would describe at least a good part of your personality?
That's I wouldn't say Luke Bryan describes my personality, because I like more older country.
Okay.
A little more outlaw country, a little older country. But yeah, the lyrics I guess would it describe.
All right. So when interviewing a lot of the guys, obviously they played a lot of sports growing up. Was that the same with you, where you play everything that had a ball? And then when did it eventually focus on baseball?
Yeah, I mean I was a 3-sport athlete all the way up. And really, I didn't focus on baseball until I got drafted. I played basketball, baseball, football, since forever I can remember. And football was my true love.
Really?
I didn't. I loved baseball, and I was best at baseball. But I loved Friday Night Lights. And then I basically played everything until my senior year. I couldn't play football because I had a stress reaction in my back from the summer. So the doctor made me kind of sit out of that, and that was kind of one of the toughest things, because my senior year we were actually supposed to be pretty good, and I couldn't be there. So that was kind of tough. But then I played basketball my senior year, and then baseball, obviously, before I got drafted.
Okay. So were you a quarterback?
I was a quarterback. Yep.
So being a lefty, that must have helped you out a lot. Did that help you separate from everyone else trying to compete for the spot?
Yes, maybe. I like to wing it.
Okay.
Took me a little bit to. I was kind of a little bit like Brett Favre, kind of try to do too much, try to sling it into some tight spaces where I shouldn't have. But I finally figured it out, I think, by my junior year of being able to read and think that I'm not Brett Favre, that I could actually do it. But But yeah, I mean, I love slinging it. Running a little bit. And just like I always say that until you experience Friday Night Lights, there's no way to really describe it.
I have experienced Friday Night Lights, but in a wrong way. To make a long story short, I got in for one varsity play. We were up 42 to nothing, and the coach calls the JV kickoff team in. I get hit on my left shoulder, and I get hit in the air, spun like a top, and I unfortunately tear my ACL. And the kick returner runs through my lane and scores a touchdown, and I'm lying on the ground helpless. So while I know the feeling, I know the bad way of the wrong definition of one and done.
Exactly right. Yeah, I can understand that.
So were you recruited to play college football at one point through your high school career?
No, not really. Because I didn't. It was kind of up and down. We weren't very good a couple of my early years, and then we were supposed to be good in my junior and senior year. And I never really spent that much time on football. If I'm being honest, like it just was. I always played baseball through the summer. I did some team camps with our basketball team and stuff like that in the summer, and then football was kind of like that third sport, but it was my favorite. So it was kind of, when it comes to trying to divvy up three sports, it kind of got the shaft when it comes to that.
Okay. Point guard or shooting guard in basketball?
Well, kind of funny story. I went from a 2 guard, 2-3, to then my senior year I played the 5. And beat and bang down low because I didn't really care, and I liked kind of beating and banging and kind of being aggressive down low. And we actually got to the state championship game and lost in the state championship game. So it wasn't all bad. But yeah, I went from a wing player to a post real quick.
So you're roughly what, 5'10", 6 foot?
Like 6'1".
Okay.
6'1".
So 6'1" center in high school. Most centers are at least 6'4". So were you intimidating? Sometimes you like to throw elbows if you could?
Yeah, I fouled out in the state championship game, if that gives you anything. I was going against B.J. Stith, who was Brian Stith's son. He played in the NBA, and he was about 6'7". And I had him all night, so I finally fouled out in the third quarter, I think it was, after I gave him, I feel like I gave him a fair shot of everything I had.
So playing youth, my nickname was called the Butcher because I would use all 5 fouls. So I can totally emulate with you of fouling out and just playing your heart out, because basketball, you don't necessarily need to score a lot, but everyone plays defense, everyone's got a rebound, and anyway, everyone's pouring their blood, sweat, and tears on the hardwood.
Yeah, exactly right. They give you 5 for a reason, and you gotta use them, or otherwise they don't carry over.
Right. So do you have any siblings?
I do not. I'm an only child.
Oh, so were you spoiled in a sense, or were you kind of raised where you're humble and at the same time don't necessarily need a whole lot because there's not a lot that you want?
I think I would like to say my parents kind of raised me to be humble and kind of not need a whole lot. I feel like I'm pretty low maintenance when it comes to most stuff. It's kind of more of a earn not given type of thing. Now my parents would probably say my grandparents, obviously that's a different story because that's what grandparents are supposed to do, right? But no, I feel like parents were pretty tough on me in a good way. I really appreciate that now. I think most kids don't appreciate that when you're growing up, especially when you're in the moment. But now that I wouldn't have asked to be any other way. It's to kind of made me who I am today.
Oh wow, that's very, very inspiring. So did you have a lot of cousins growing up, or did you have a lot of friends in your neighborhood that were around the same age where you're always able to do something?
Well, I do have a lot of cousins, and we all live in my hometown, which is not very big. I think it's like 2,000 people. And we all right now live within. We used to live like 3 or 4 blocks from my cousins, and then a minute drive to my grandparents' house. So we're all kind of tucked in my hometown, and so it made it nice growing up that we could kind of all beat up on each other, play different sports. And then we had a group of friends that all were around the town, and we would all come to my house to play basketball or wiffle ball or football, whatever it is. We have many, midnight games under the lights of some spotlights, just for fun, and that's the stuff that, I really kind of, remember growing up, of being able just to hang out and just really just playing something all the time.
Okay. Spotswood High School, right? Was that just the local high school that was in your town? Because there are some athletes who will go to a prep school or a private school to better not only their academic, but also their athletics going forward to set them up for college.
No, that was our public school. It was like about 15 minutes outside my hometown. So it wasn't actually in my town, but yeah, it was just our public high school that was decently sized. My freshman year and then my sophomore year, they built a high school 5 minutes down the road, so we split in half. So then we were kind of mediocre in size. But yeah, we kind of pulled some kids from like Harrisonburg, which is like the bigger city where JMU is, and then all of my town went there as well. So yeah, it was some of my obviously greatest memories from there.
So junior, senior year, you focused more on baseball. I guess take me through your high school baseball journey. When did you make the varsity team? Some make it as a freshman. Others wait till their junior year to finally earn a spot.
So I was on. I basically, funny story. Freshman year, obviously trying to make a spot on varsity, but I start pitching the first game of the year for JV team. We lose 1-0 or 2-1, somewhere in there. I throw well, but don't get a win, get the loss actually. Next day, varsity coach comes in, says pulling you up to varsity to be more of a DH first baseman, throw some here or there. Funny story, then JV goes on to go 19-0 or 20-0, and they go 20-1 on the year, and I have the only loss. So anytime I see our JV coach, which is now our AD at my high school, he's like, see, I got rid of you, and we go undefeated.
So it's all your fault.
So it's my fault that they didn't go undefeated. And so then, basically I played, I think I was, won some awards as a DH first base that year as a freshman. Threw probably maybe 3 or 4 games. Wasn't that many. Then, started more first base DH. Started as a sophomore on, and obviously pitched and played the field.
So when did you want to convert to a pitcher? Because you did play first base and DH. When did you want to convert to a pitcher, and what is it about being a pitcher that kind of separates you from everyone else?
I think it was kind of more of like once I started getting some draft talks. Because when I committed to Virginia, I was supposed to be a two-way. I always liked playing the field. Probably almost more than pitching until it kind of came down to junior senior year, and I was obviously pretty good at pitching, and I love kind of being in control. I think that's the biggest thing about, especially being a starter, is the ball's in your hand, kind of goes at your pace. Nobody else can do anything without you doing something first, rather than hitters kind of have to react. So I think that's something that I loved about pitching. And then obviously, once I get into my senior year and a lot of draft stuff's going on, I just like to compete. And so being able to, go out there and compete and at that time, 5, 6, 7 innings, really, was kind of like my mentality of what I like to do. And then once, I get drafted, obviously you're forced into that's what you're doing every day. So I think that was a big transition for me.
Now, you were drafted in the 10th round out of high school in 2013, but you did mention committing to University of Virginia, which personally, I visited the campus a couple of times. I think it's arguably the most beautiful college in America, especially the colonial style, the brick buildings, the old style, and needless to say, Thomas Jefferson did a really good job. What was that decision like as far as, did you want to play college baseball, or did you ever have a chance at the pros? And then once the Astros picked you, what was that whole decision like as far as, Do you want to go to a really elite school in the ACC where it's really competitive, or do you want to give your dreams a shot at Major League Baseball? I guess through the whole process that was going for you in your senior year of high school.
It's never an easy decision. I think it was obviously I picked Virginia because I love the coaches there. I love the environment, and I think when I was narrowed down for my schools to commit there, a lot of it too was it was 40 minutes from home. So a lot of I have a lot of family obviously in my hometown, grandparents, aunts, uncles, great aunts. That I wanted to be able to, they had supported me all along, and still do, and I wanted to give them, the opportunity to be able to support me going forward, rather than go somewhere further away that is tougher for family to travel. So I think that made that decision obviously really easy. Not to mention that it's, they were top 5 at that time, going to win, World Series, and all that stuff. Then coming down, when it came down to kind of getting to draft talks, something I had to sit down with my parents and kind of lay out, what I want, what kind of expect, what to expect, and the positive and negatives of both sides. And I think, I had a great support staff of my parents, coaches, people that were in pro ball that, I was fortunate enough to have, contact with to kind of, not sugarcoat anything, and kind of know what you're getting into. And then when push came to shove, I didn't know where I was going to fall, to be honest, because I never really focused on baseball. That was kind of a different thing. I never went to any of the big time showcases to get really recognized or anything, because I cared more about my high school sports and playing, and then just kind of being one sport specific. So really, it came down to draft day, and I was slotted anywhere between 3rd and 10th round, or not at all. And then you kind of watch it, and I actually got a call in the 5th round by the Mariners, and I turned it down because it wasn't enough incentives to forego college. And so then I thought my draft was over, to be honest with you, and I was actually heading to it was my graduation day. I was heading to graduation, and my dad called me and said, "Hey, the Stros," it was the first year of the slot draft, and they had saved up some money, and they want to take you in the 10th round. And he's like, "You got 60 seconds."
That is, you're about to walk the aisle on high school graduation day, and then a 1-minute phone call. You have 60 seconds to decide if you want to either play for the Who's, or that's another question I'll ask you after this, play for Virginia, or do you want to give Major League Baseball another shot after initially you turned down the Mariners in the 5th round? You have 60 seconds to make a very life-changing decision.
Yeah, and I think, I think my dad was on the phone with my advisor at the time, who was my agent, who then he was on the phone with Jeff Leno, obviously, GM, and because you don't have much time in between picks. So I'm in the car driving, trying not to be late to graduation, but trying to make, this decision that I thought, ultimately was over. And I was pretty upset that I thought it was over, because it's kind of like you get your dreams taken away, but you still have a good alternative. It's not a lose-lose by any means. So, I think when push came to shove, my dad kind of supported me, was like, if you want to go play, go play. And I think that kind of was eye-opening to me of, if what you want to do is do this every day, then go do it. Everything else is okay. It's fine. I was fortunate enough to get college scholarship, funds to be able to go back and get my degree, and I actually started that this past semester, and all that. So he kind of made me put everything aside and just say, if you want to play baseball every day and do what you love and have a shot at your dream, go do it. And I kind of that kind of freed me up and really kind of told myself that that's what I want to do. So I obviously made that decision. Get to graduation, I had to pull up my phone on the cast or whatever to try to see my pick, and kind of stay kind of hush hush, but kind of tell my best friends who were supporting me as we were kind of lining up, and then I got to see it, got a bunch of calls right before graduation. Obviously, go through graduation. I don't remember anything from graduation, obviously. And then we got to, kind of celebrate and have my friends and family there after graduation to be able to kind of break the news and kind of enjoy it.
So not only high school graduation, but you get to be drafted into Major League Baseball. Probably a night you will never forget.
No, that's for sure. It was the story. Was kind of hectic. The whole day was kind of hectic, waiting around trying to see if I was going to draft her or not, and then finally doing. But yeah, it's something that I kind of hold on to forever. Of the kind of feelings and all the events that took place. It's a dream for sure. And that was just part of what was hopefully a much bigger story.
Why is the whole Virginia? Why is it the University of Virginia? What is Oahu? Where does it come from? What is the reason behind the chant? I've heard other stories, maybe of a drunken adventure, or the fans may have had too much booze at one game, or what is it? Because I've never understood it.
I don't have a straight answer for you. The Cavaliers, obviously, a pretty self-explanatory, kind of guy that comes out with a sword on a horse, yeah, I mean, Wahoo just fits, and obviously you can't go anywhere in Charlottesville without seeing, Who's or Wahoos. So I think, if nothing else, I think it just sounds good.
Kind of like the Wahoo.
Yeah. So maybe it's like what the Cavalier says. I don't know. That's a good question. That's something that you'll have to look into.
Okay. So you're now drafted by the Astros, and you go through, I guess, the grind of minor league baseball. I think that's a fair way to say it. You played 3 years in the minor leagues, from rookie ball to single A. They had rookie ball, low A, and A as well as high A as well. I guess take me through your minor league baseball journey, because now, in a way, you're trying to make your dream a reality.
It's kind of ups and downs. It's not something that I was like extremely proud of as far as kind of the results, but coming in, I felt really good. I was right where I needed to be. First year, I had a great year, throwing the hardest I've ever thrown, and really, looking back, I kind of took that part of it for granted a little bit because it was kind of easy. This game's not easy by any means, but at that point for me, it was really easy. And then tinkered with some stuff, injuries. It was kind of a downhill spiral from there, and changed some mechanical stuff, and then which then kind of led into some injuries, hurt on and off the DL. Never really could pitch back to where I was, and really kind of just beat my head against the wall for I guess probably 2 seasons before I finally. Our rehab pitching coach at the time, Mike Burns, who was a former big leaguer, kind of brought new life to me as far as kind of revamping and kind of trying to get back to where I was, and kind of a thing of shouldn't have ever really changed anything, but we kind of got to get back there now, kind of so what, move on. So I was in the process of that when I got released, which nobody ever likes to get fired. So at that point, it felt like I'd kind of got back to where I was in the right direction, but the game was kind of taken out from under me. So I didn't really know if I wanted to play again or what I wanted to do. I love playing, but I just didn't know. Hey, is it something that I want to continue to try to grind through? Because it shouldn't be a grind. We get to play a kid's game every day, and that's something that you kind of take for granted as well when you're in the moment of trying not to get caught up of who's moving up, who's moving down, trying to get to the big leagues, and just remember that we're out here just at the end of the day having fun. And so finally, after I took some time off in 2017 to regroup and really get healthy, that kind of led me here.
Now, before we get to you getting to Evansville, a couple side notes. I noticed that when you were in high school, when you committed to Virginia, you, according to Perfect Game, you were the 4th ranked pitcher in the state of Virginia. You were also the 16th ranked left-handed pitcher in the entire country, as well as the 111th overall pitcher in the country as well. So I think at the time when you were graduating high school, you made a pretty good decision to try to make your dreams a reality. And then when you were drafted in 2013, some of the notable names in the first couple rounds were Mark Appel, Chris Bryant, Aaron Judge, and Cody Bellinger. So in a way, is that a pretty cool nugget you could add as a part of your resume that you were in the same draft class as those guys who are playing in the bigs right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's always cool to, and I'm fortunate enough to be, fairly good friends with Mark Appel, and be able to, just kind of share the field with a lot of big leaguers at this point, of guys you play with, and it's always cool to be able to, see a guy on TV and be like, hey man, he played behind me, or I played with him, or hey, I roomed with him here, I was there. So I think that's always, something that will always be, something I guess cool to be able to say or live with, and kind of see guys. But yeah, I mean, I think one of the bigger things is, you never know if that chance is going to happen again. I think that was kind of one of the bigger things to me is, why not, while I'm feeling good, healthy, feel like my game's where it needs to be to get to the next level, take that opportunity, rather than, kind of, you never know if, 3 years down the road if it's going to be there or not. So I think that was something that was kind of beneficial going into that draft class.
Now, in your 3 years in your minor league career, you had a 7-13 record with a 5.47 ERA, as well as 23 starts and 39 appearances. You mentioned your gap year in 2017. Did you just take time off to get healthy, kind of get away from the game at times? Because being in the 3 years of minor league baseball and not probably advancing as far as you wanted to be at the time, did you just want to take a mental break as well physically to kind of clear your mind?
I took a good portion off, but not really. To be honest with you, I stayed lifting, and then I actually played in a league back home. That's like a amateur league that consists of Division II, Division III guys, as well as like former professional guys, which it's honestly really competitive. But honestly, going back there, I really just wanted to get kind of back to just having some fun, and really playing the field, and hitting, and then I could build up my arm as I got healthy, and get kind of slate in my innings. I was very fortunate that it was actually a team in my hometown. It was who I played for, and the coach was awesome as far as being able to kind of let me set my schedule of when I was going to throw, to build up and get back feeling good, healthy. Didn't really care much about results, and really just have fun. And that was honestly one of the most kind of breath of fresh air that I've ever had. I got to play with my cousin. We had a good group of guys, and it was just a ton of fun, to be back in my hometown, and they get great support. So that was kind of uplifting to then make me want to get back into the professional kind of realm of being able to compete every day.
So once you were able to get back into the swing of things, I guess my next question is how you found out about Evansville, because every indie ball player has their own different story.
Really, I was fortunate that one of my big mentors, kind of knew some guys, and then somehow, I sent some video to him, and he sent it to some people, and then somebody else sent it back, and I don't really know how the whole kind of story goes, but I was just fortunate to have some connections to be able to at least get my name out. And then I was fortunate enough that Max called me and was in need of an arm or two, and so I was fortunate enough that kind of locked me in here to come here in spring training, and then I made it through spring training, and then had a pretty good year last year.
Yeah, I think you did. The most impressive part is you had 20 starts, even though you had an 8-5 record. 20 starts, I think for any pitcher at any level, is very impressive through the grind of whether it's a major league or a minor league or even an indie ball season. I guess, did Max show confidence that he had in you to execute a game plan whenever your number was called?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was just a great support staff here. My goal was just to go through a season healthy. I mean, I hadn't been healthy in a full season ever, except I guess in 13 and 14 would be really the last year that I had a feel every day, every time, every fifth day going out and throwing. So that was my personal goal of just every time a number was called, go out there and compete and give us a chance to win. And I was fortunate enough to do that. I didn't miss a start. I didn't, I guess I, made the most starts out of anybody. And really just being able to, kind of lean on Max a little bit as I was getting back in the swing of things. I wasn't I was still kind of rusty at pitch calling, and reading swings and being able to kind of think through the game a little bit from taking that year off and seeing professional hitters. But it kind of at the same time made it where, just being able to go out there every day was a breath of fresh air of just being able to compete and really just enjoy it.
Now, how can you describe your first year of indie ball with the Otters? Because they made the playoffs. They're coming off a few years removed from the 2016 championship season. Have you embraced the culture when you were able to step right into here in Evansville?
It was one of the best years I've ever had in pro baseball. I mean, it was by far one of the best clubhouses we had. We were fortunate enough to have a lot of experienced guys and a lot of good guys, which made it, that much better. And really, you're not going to find a better coaching staff in professional baseball than what we have here. And it was just kind of a real, honestly, just a breath of fresh air and a lot of fun. I came off of last year and, and kind of evaluating at the end of the year with my wife. It was like, this is one of the most fun years we've ever had as far as being able to just with the team. Obviously, it was a lot of fun. We had to make a playoff run to get into the playoffs, making it. We didn't do the results that we wanted in the playoffs. But just getting there was, a ton of fun. And the culture here of just Bossy and Old Stadium and everything that's kind of been laid out to this point of that, they have pretty good success here. I think that was something really cool to be a part of.
What is it about Evansville that you either have liked or embraced? Because from my time being here as a rookie, as far as the front office employees go, it's clear that the fans clearly are passionate and that they love their Otters.
Yeah, I mean, you're not gonna, I compare it to, as far as a big league market because there's no other team around. And in indie ball, the owner wants to win to be able to get fans in seats. It's not as big of a, affiliate ball. You're obviously just kind of a stepping stone to the big leagues, and everybody's supporting there. And it's not a big, win or go home type deal. But here, it's much more of a true organization feel of, hey, we got to win. We got to get fans, want to see us win. The owner wants us to win. Skip wants us to win. Like we want to win championships here. That you don't always get in affiliate ball because it's all process there. So I think that's part of the bigger thing for me is we're trying to compete for championships here, which is really cool. And then as far as Evansville, it's just they get a good crowd. There's many nights that Bossy is sold out, and being that they're loud. The playoffs last year were unbelievable, and talking to guys from the 16 team, they say that championship series was nothing they've ever experienced before. And it's kind of a love-hate relationship because they are so passionate, and I think it makes us strive to be better on the field.
I think you hit the nail on the head as far as when guys come and play indie ball, that the only focus is to win and try to compete and get out there every day and actually feel the relief of winning games and making a postseason run. Because in affiliated baseball, I feel like everyone has a lot of concern of, if I did well or did not do well, if I'm going to get moved up anytime soon.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, it's, obviously everybody's here to try to get picked back up, but at the same time, you're also here to, try to win. So I think that makes it, easier just to go out. You're just going out and trying to just play and compete to win. And Skip says it all the time, and as well as Max, that, the most guys that get picked up are off, winning teams. You don't see a lot of guys getting picked up off of, bottom of the barrel kind of teams. So it pushes us to, want to win and be competitive here, as well as being, competitive for ourselves to hopefully, get picked up.
Now you mentioned it earlier that If there's anyone I think that could get through the intimidating armor that you have, would be your wife, Nikki. I think there are a handful of mothers that listen in, and I'm sure everyone likes a good love story. Um, you're 24 years old and you're happily married. I think that's fair to say. If you're not, then, well, there might be some repercussions. So I guess if there's a PG version of when did you, I guess, first meet Nikki, and then when did it turn into, I guess, getting serious into finally marriage?
Yeah, so I guess it was like 2011. We started dating, and I was a junior, she was a sophomore in high school, and then we kind of obviously stayed together and weathered the storm throughout. Long distance for a while, which more credit goes to her for sure for that, because that was that was something that was tough that we kind of both got thrown into when I got drafted. Not only did I get thrown into pro ball, but she did too. And so got through that, and then very fortunate to be able to ask her to marry me, and we got married in 2017, October of 2017.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And it's been great that she kind of went through the whole. We got married kind of in that midterm of not understanding, and she really kind of was the biggest supporter of me getting back into professional baseball. I think she really pushed me to not kind of settle and just kind of call it quits. So a lot of credit goes to her to pushing me to get back to kind of where I am now. And then obviously this year is the first year that she's been able to kind of come full time and enjoy a full season. I think that's kind of been refreshing for both of us, just to not have to worry about scheduling a week here, a week there, to be able to just see each other a couple times in a season.
Now you have a rigorous schedule as a baseball player, but she's a nurse practitioner.
She's a nurse, RN. Yep.
Okay. So being a former nursing major before communications, I can only imagine her schedule and her workload must be almost as stressful as yours. So I guess how do you guys make it work?
It's a lot. It is a lot. You got to enjoy the days off when we both are off, and the off season. There's sometimes where I only see her for a couple hours in between, right before she got off and she's getting ready to go back to sleep. So any time that we have, you gotta enjoy it a little more, and then you look for those 3 days off that she has to be together and just kind of enjoy it before she has to obviously go back to the brutal shifts that she works. So I think that's why this summer she decided to go PRN and go part time, and it makes it that much better that she's here for 3 or 4 weeks and don't have to. I know it's way easier on her than having to try to listen to you or listen to somebody else to try to get the games instead of actually being here and being able to see it.
Now, what is it that allows the both of you to play off of each other? Whether it's what are her strengths that help with your weaknesses and vice versa?
She's kind of she says it as how it is. If I'm bad, she lets me know. But at the same time, if I'm really hard on myself. So if I'm too hard on myself, she'll just kind of politely tell me to shut up and move on. And it's not as bad as as I'm making it. Because there's some times that I can be really hard and kind of be a baby about it because just because of kind of the stuff I've been through. So she's kind of I like to think I'm pretty strong, but she's way tougher than me and stronger than me as far as when it comes to that stuff. And just obviously we've been through so many ups and downs in baseball that she just being able to love me through everything and keep everything just keep me strong through everything really, and a huge support system is something that can't be thankful enough for, and she doesn't get enough credit for it either.
So would she be considered one of the guys? Is she more of a guy's girl or a girl's girl?
I like to say a little bit of both. She's very athletic. I mean, she was supposed to go play Division II basketball.
Okay.
And she hurt her knee, so I just go to nursing school. and she'll go play golf with me. But then she likes to, dress up and obviously is very pretty. So, it's I like to say the best of both. She can play in one-on-one, or she likes to go shopping too. So it's that fine line of both.
Has she crossed you up?
I don't think she's ever beat me, because I know that I have to take it pretty serious. So I don't let anything happen there. Or, I'm pretty locked in most of the time, because I don't want. She has 2 state championships. I don't have.
Got you there.
Yes, I don't have any. So she already has that.
We'll get into the later part of the podcast, and I thank you for joining me. We've traveled to a lot of places, and I'm sure you've traveled around the world being in baseball, or at least not around the world, in the United States. What are some favorite places that you have traveled to, and if you had a dream vacation destination?
Dream vacation on like the Maldives or Maldives, however you say it, of like the houses, bungalows out on the water. That's it for me. Favorite places. I'm a homebody. My wife doesn't like it, but because she loves to travel. But I love my small town. But if I had to pick, that's tough.
You can name a few.
Orlando's cool. I like Orlando and Clearwater, especially on the water. Any place on the Gulf down there on the water is cool. As far as cities, see, I'm not a big city guy, so it's kind of got to be pretty impressive as far as a city goes. But I mean, we get to go to a decent amount of cities, so each one I think has its perks. But I'm not a city guy, so I can't give in and say a city.
Okay. Where was your honeymoon, if you don't mind me asking?
We went to Jamaica. Okay. Yeah, so that was awesome, obviously. And then Turks and Caicos is cool too. I haven't been, but my wife says it's unbelievable. So
my mom and dad have been there too.
Yeah.
If you're a fisherman, I recommend you go to Cabo San Lucas in Mexico. Not only is it a really good vacation destination, but it is the fishing capital of the world.
Okay. So that's marked and noted. I'm gonna have to go there.
Yeah. So it's on the Baja Peninsula. If you picture geographically California, there's that little strip of Mexico under California, and the southern tip of that little strip is Cabo.
Okay. Sweet.
All right. Favorite foods, up to 5. Now, you can pick places, you can pick particular meals, or you can mix it up.
Well, my grandma's fried squash is by far the best.
Fried squash.
That's like my go-to. I like a good steak. Steak's a go-to for me.
What kind of steak?
A good ribeye, or I mean, obviously, if you're gonna really treat yourself, you go like filet. But yeah, good juicy ribeye. Really, I could live on those 2 right there.
Really?
Yeah, I don't really need a whole lot else.
Fried squash and
crab is a big one.
Okay.
Yeah, so steak and crab is kind of a big. Yeah, that's my favorite.
Okay. Have you been to a Brazilian steakhouse before?
All you can eat. I try to get my money's worth there. I leave it on green a lot.
Likewise.
Yeah. That's always a good spot. But really, I mean, I just grill a good steak at home and with some fried squash, I'll be happy.
What about when we're on the road and we don't have many options to pick?
On the road, I mean, big Chipotle. I mean, I should probably get a rewards, like all you can eat by now, because I've spent a good amount of money there. So,
just like Vail.
Yeah, me and Vail you can always catch us there in Evansville every day. But I'm trying to think. I like Mexican. I do like Mexican, and Texas Roadhouse never hurts, which goes back to the steak.
And I think probably the more underlying part about Texas Roadhouse, or the underrated part about it, is the hot warm buns with the cinnamon butter.
With the cinnamon butter, can't beat it.
All right, we've seen a lot of movies on the bus rides. What are some of your favorite movies?
Anything with Will Ferrell. So take your pick there.
Okay.
Top Gun.
Danger Zone.
Danger Zone, any of the major leagues, any of the Rockies. I'm more of a comedy guy. I don't like a lot of serious movies.
Okay. So is Godfather not on your list?
Seen it? Never seen anything like that.
Are you not a mobster guy, or is it just
mobs? I like the mob stuff, but I'm not a big movie guy. My wife doesn't like it because I don't sit down and watch movies very often. So if I do, it's a comedy that I've probably already seen.
Okay. All right. So are you more of a TV show guy?
No, I've only seen one TV show all the way through.
Which was
Entourage.
So who would be? See, Cronin believes that he would be Vinny Chase. Do you agree with that? If not, if you could name, what's up, Dave? Who would be your cast in Entourage?
From our team?
Would Dave be Vinny Chase?
On this year's team, Dave would probably be Vinny Chase. Vale would be Turtle, 100%. That's not even a question.
That is too funny.
I don't know where I'd fit in, honestly. I kind of wouldn't want to fit in. I just want to watch it.
Okay. Could you be Ari, or would that be too much stress?
I would like to be Ari. Yeah, I could deal with Ari.
But I guess because in the show, Ari's wife is a little crazy, and clearly that is not yours.
No, not anywhere close.
All right. Being in Virginia, what were some of your favorite teams that you supported growing up?
The Orioles were all we had, really, and the Redskins. That was really it. And I wasn't a big college guy, but if I was, it was Carolina all day long.
Really?
Yeah, I was a big Tar Heel fan, and I was fortunate enough to, get a scholarship offer from them as well. So that was tough trying to divvy up that. So yeah, I would probably say, those three of the Orioles, the Redskins, and Carolina.
Okay. Are you with the draft of Dwayne Haskins? Are you hoping that the future of DC would be okay?
Yeah, I mean, I thought we had that with RG3, and then kind of let me down a little bit. So yeah, I'm not a huge. I didn't get too excited on this one because I try to play it low key, and then obviously kind of used to a bad year. So hopefully, yes, this is the year, maybe.
Okay. So Carolina basketball or Carolina all the way around?
Carolina pretty much all the way around, but not anymore. So yeah, now ever since I committed to Virginia, I'm kind of open, and honestly, JMU now is being close. I have season tickets. We have season tickets to football and basketball. I'm fortunate enough to know some of the baseball guys on that side. So now I'd have to say JMU all the way.
Okay. So the Dukes.
Yep, JMU Dukes.
Was that ever a college consideration as well?
Not really. No. I didn't get really recruited much from there, and I had kind of narrowed it down at that point to kind of five little bit bigger schools, and then I didn't really take much time in committing to Virginia.
Okay. You did mention that you are a JMU fan. JMU's known probably for their football team. Generally speaking, just how big of a football fan, college football fan are you? And I picture you kind of like myself, Saturdays during the fall, you can go 12 noon to 2 a.m. just watching straight college football.
Yeah, for the most part. I don't miss a JMU game, that's for sure. Road or at home, as far as, we went to a road game this year, and then we obviously went to the national championship that they won. And then on the road, obviously try to stream it or get it on TV, and then, I'll watch Virginia football. I watch pretty much, and any football whatsoever. I love football.
Okay. You mentioned some of your hobbies. So hunting is one. What are some of your other hobbies when you're not playing baseball?
I feel like it wouldn't be fair to the guys if I didn't back home if I didn't mention that I do play a little guitar. I kind of have a small band back home that they're actually they're still playing throughout the summer. So that's kind of an unknown. I play a little guitar, hunt, and golf is huge. I mean, I'm a big time golfer. So those three right there in themselves, I could be fine for the rest of my life.
All right. So are you one of the singers, lead singer?
I will not sing. I don't need to. We have three pretty good ones. So yeah, I don't sing. I'm really just there. I like to say I'm there. They say I do more, but I like to say I'm just there.
Okay. So you would not be doing well at karaoke if called upon.
I would like to say I could hold my share, but I'm not gonna do it. If that's a good answer.
Okay, I'll take it. What is on your pregame playlist as far as getting hyped for a game, and then what are some other music on your iPod when you're in leisure activities?
So a lot of country. I feel like I'm well rounded. Like I'll go, Red Hot Chili Peppers to Merle Haggard to Lil Wayne. I mean, I'll kind of cover all bases, but more times than not, it's older country, outlaw country, with some like Texas sprinkled in with Lucas Nelson, Brent Cobb, Merle Haggard, Willie, Waylon, Whiskey Myers. Let's see. Gary Clark Jr.'s a new one added, and then like I said, I like some Red Hot Chili Peppers, some Pearl Jam, some. I mean, we'll even go like Lil Wayne, T-Pain. I mean, some older rap, even some new stuff. I don't dabble as much new, but yeah, I like to say like you never know what's gonna come up, and people give me a hard time because everybody says it's bad, but it's all right.
One of the things I researched about grottos is that there are a lot of wine vineyards. Is that another leisure activity that you would do when you would be back at home?
My wife would like to, but yeah, we have a I guess a kind of a wine trail now. It's kind of getting big in breweries too, some microbreweries and stuff like that. So it took me a while to give in to that because I'm pretty plain Jane as far as if I want to drink anything. So. But yeah, I'm starting to dabble a little bit, and I think it is fun, and it's obviously helped with our band that we've played some of the breweries and stuff like that. So that's cool too. There's like a big brewery trail, although obviously through the mountains because we're right in the heart of it. So yeah, like I should do more of it. I'd like to know more of it, but maybe that's something I'll treat my wife to this off season.
All right, that sounds pretty cool. Now, in some of my research, I found your baseball card on Amazon. It's $199 plus $3.99 shipping and handling, and it says that you need to buy now because there is a limited stock. When I read the back of your baseball card, it said that you not only did you sign with the Astros, but you signed during a family vacation. Is that true?
Yeah. So obviously after I got drafted, we had already had a senior kind of trip with my girlfriend at the time, which is my wife, and my parents, to go to kind of through Disney and then on to Clearwater to the resort for just kind of some downtime because we hadn't had it. So that was kind of important to me. So I was able to negotiate to be able to go on that. And then also fortunate that they flew me then from there into Houston to sign with and have all my family there and do all the production there. So yeah, that was kind of a really cool stretch of 2 weeks that I was fortunate enough that my wife and my parents and my granddad actually went on the trip too. I could all kind of all there for that big special moment.
Not only that, but it said that your favorite pitcher was Billy Wagner. Being from Philly, he went from Phillies to the Mets. Kind of a rocky history, but what is it about Billy Wagner that inspired you, and do you try to emulate your pitching style after him?
I mean, what you saw was what you're going to get. I mean, it was 100 coming at you. So I love that. I love that he just, competed with and sees, here comes what I've got, now see what you can do. And I think, he didn't care. Obviously, he kind of came from same kind of deal, smaller town in Virginia, D3, kind of the hard road. And I used to kind of pitch that way and I still am kind of more of a fastball dominant pitcher, and especially in a league like this where most guys are more kind of off speed. I don't necessarily have I definitely don't have his fastball, but I don't have the kind of. I'm getting back. I feel like to the fastball I used to have, but I still don't have the true overpowering fastball like I wish I have, and sometimes I think I have. But yeah, I mean, I love that where it's just like here, here comes a hard fastball, and see what you can do. I love that.
Was he your favorite player growing up, or do you have a couple more besides Barry Wagner?
I was a big Barry Bonds fan, unfortunately or fortunately, however it kind of falls. Yeah, and other than that, really didn't have any kind of more just always playing. So I didn't really have a lot of just favorites.
And lastly, do you have an inspiration? Is there one person, or is there a group of people, or is there something that you wake up to every day to kind of inspire you to be successful both on and off the field?
I put Mark 9:23 Bible verse on underneath my signature on my cards, which is Jesus said to him, anything is possible for him who believes. So I think that's something that we can do anything if we kind of put our mind to it and kind of do whatever we want to do if you work hard enough at it. And I think that's something that kind of I try to strive to. Of there's kind of no limitations. Now this game's very very good at humbling throughout. That sometimes it can kind of make you think otherwise, and I think it's important to kind of lean on that more and trust kind of the greater plan in the process. So I think that's something that I try to live by, and obviously that's kind of some motivation for anybody else. Like nothing's impossible by any means. So hopefully I'm obviously striving to hopefully be the best I can be here for the Otters, and then with the ultimate goal to try to get to the big leagues at some point.
Austin Nicely, thank you so much for your time. A man who may seem intimidating, but until you get to know him, you can pierce through that hard, intimidating surface. Thank you so much for your time, and I really appreciate it.
Perfect. Thanks, Dave. I enjoyed it.
A big thanks to my...
I try to strive to, of there's kind of no limitations. Now, this game's very, very good at humbling throughout. That sometimes it can kind of, make you think otherwise, and I think it's important to kind of, lean on that, more and trust, kind of the greater plan in the process. So I think that's something that I try to live by, and obviously, that's kind of some motivation for anybody else. Like, nothing's impossible by any means. So hopefully, I'm obviously striving to hopefully, be the best I can be here for the Otters, and then, with the ultimate goal to try to get to the big leagues at some point.
Austin Nicely, thank you so much for your time. A man who may seem intimidating, but until you get to know him, you can pierce through that hard, intimidating surface. Thank you so much for your time, and I really appreciate it.
Perfect. Thanks, Dave. I enjoyed it.
A big thanks to my guest, Austin Nicely. If you enjoyed this podcast, please hit the thumbs up button at the bottom of the screen and leave a comment.